welcome to my channel. I'm Greicy Hoo. I'm a therapist and independent spiritualist. I heard that the first videos are the worst, but anyway, I have to start somehow, even without practice. But there's this saying I like very much: practice leads to perfection. So here I am, learning how to do this. Let's get started. Reincarnation programming. What is this? Well, before we as spirits take a physical body in this physical world, it is usual to program this existence, this life. Actually, life is eternal, but this is like a chapter in eternity. Okay?
Oh, Gracie, but I don't believe in reincarnation. I think this is silly.
Well, it makes no difference. Because if you ever had an astral projection, which is when your physical body is sleeping, your spirit leaves it and go to another dimension called the astral plane and have some experiences there, even if you don't remember. But this is a reality. So for me, reincarnation is not a matter of belief. No, it's a reality. If you watched my introducing video, you saw that spirituality was always very important to me. And I've been studying this subject. Actually, there are many subjects involved in the term spirituality, but I've been studying this for decades, almost my entire life. Since I was a teenager, I started to study this because I came to this life with the certainty that it is a reality, the other side. Because of memories that are brought with me and came up to my mind, to my consciousness with time, with the help of my spiritual friends, but this is another thing. So, if you ever had an astral projection, and what is this? The difference between astral projection and dream is in the astral projection, you are conscious. If not 100%, just a minority of people would have that amount. You are having an experience in another dimension, okay? And you are aware, you are conscious, you are lucid, you know who you are, you have sense of time. Like you know what you did in the past, you know what you are doing, and you know what you are going to do in the future, like the next day.
I have a meeting with my boss.
For example. So you are lucid, basically. And in a dream, you are not lucid. Everything is like a mess, is confused, like you see an elephant and then the elephant becomes a dog, that becomes a cat, whatever. There is no logic. But in an astral projection, you are not only lucid, your mind works with logic. But the thing is, when you wake up, when your spirit returns to your physical body and you will awake, you can have like a mix of lucid experiences and confused memories from the dreams. Because if you don't go back to your physical body, and when I say you, I mean your spirit, your consciousness. Your consciousness is not in your physical brain, it's in your spirit. Okay, so if you don't wake up right after returning from an astral projection, your mind will go through different states, dreams produced by your unconscious. So memories are like this. You have a memory of an astral projection, but you didn't wake up right after that experience. So you have a layer of dream, then other dream, and another dream. So when you finally wake up, everything is mixed. The memory of the experience you had in the astral projection and the dreams. And that's why when you try to remember everything, if you can remember everything, it's like,
Oh, this part was incredible, was amazing, seemed very real. But then everything became confused.
That's why dreams mixed with the experience in that astral projection. Anyway, this is another subject for another video. The thing is, when your spirit decides to reincarnate because it needs some experiences to evolve. What kind of experience? Well, it's much easier to evolve if you are in a nice place, living just with nice people. There's no challenge like if you were here having to deal with ignorant people, right? And when I say ignorant, I mean hard to deal people. You know what I mean. You must know people like that. So your spirit feels the need to come to this physical world and have specific experiences with some specific people that you met in another life, in a past life. So when that time comes, it's necessary to have a program. What are you going to do here? What kind of experiences you are going to go through in order to evolve? Because you have your weaknesses, or as I like to call, your weak points that needs to be worked in terms of self-improvement, right? So you need those experiences here. That's basically why we reincarnate. So it's necessary to have a programming. The universe is not chaotic. Otherwise, your experience here, your life would be random and kind of a waste of energy and everything, because it's a lot of work to get a physical body. You have to prepare your spirit for basically 9 months to be born. So it requires a lot of energy and preparation. So it's necessary a planning. So the thing is, if you are not lucid enough in terms of a certain level of consciousness to take part in that programming and planning your next life, which is the case of most people in this planet. But if you are not, let's say, mature enough in your consciousness to take part in this, you will have a spiritual mentor to take part in the process, to plan your next incarnation for you. And what is a spiritual mentor? It's a friend who knows you very well, knows your weaknesses, your weak points, and your strong points now. But let's suppose you could be at least asked, what do you feel like more important for you to work on now in your next life? What do you feel like an urge to work on with maybe someone specific, like you feel guilty for doing bad things to someone, or you would like to meet someone you really like, a very dear one, in your next life, so you won't be so lonely, right? You can choose, you can make a list of things.
Oh, I would like to work with music, for example, be a singer or a writer.
Whatever. You can make a list, and then you have your mentor much wiser than you, looking at your planning and say,
Well, let's take this out and this and this.
you know, I grew up in São Paulo, Brazil, and Portuguese is my first language. And we have so many interesting books in Portuguese written by disincarnated spirits through a medium. It's very interesting because that's one of the ways we can know how it's life on the other side. So the thing is, you can have many plans, but your mentor knows once you reincarnate, you will forget everything, basically, because you have a new brain, and it's not natural for us once here to remember our past lives or what we've planned for this life, because you have a new physical brain. So that brain, your actual brain, doesn't have the memories of what your spirit went through before being in this physical body. Your spirit will know, but once you are here, if you are not more connected to a spirit, it won't be so easy to remember. That's the reason. So suppose you have a list with 1 dozen of things you would like to do in this life, but your mentor knows once you get a physical body, you won't remember everything. You won't be so brave to deal with the necessary challenges. And basically, you will forget, you will have fears, you will be influenced by the world, the media, other people since your childhood. So you have like a brainwash in the world. It's expected that you won't be able to accomplish all of your goals. So virtual mentor will reduce all those goals to just a few, the most important ones. And there is a department depending on where your spirit was living before reincarnated. Let's say it would be like a city, the astral dimension. It's like a city. There is a department responsible for the reincarnation programming. So your spiritual mentor will take your, let's say, application for a new life there. And there are technicians specialized in doing this kind of programming, the planning in every single details, like where you are going to born, country, city, in what kind of family. Is it possible that you will meet dear ones that you already know? Are they available to be your parents, your siblings, for example, your friends? Are they available to be born at the same time as you? When would be the best time for you to reincarnate in terms of date? So it's a very complex work to define this programming in details. But the most important is once your application is approved, then your spirit will be prepared for this process, which begins with determining who your parents are going to be. Anyway, we are talking about reincarnation programming. It has like a few main challenges for you to do in this lifetime. And not all challenges are so hard in terms of a lot of difficulties for you to go through to learn something and to evolve. No, sometimes it can be a specific work that you are going to do that will affect other people. Like someone who will study to be a lawyer and defend specific causes for specific people. There is a variety of possibilities. And your spiritual mentor is responsible for making sure, or at least trying to make you accomplish those goals, those challenges. And it's a hard work to be a spiritual mentor, because if you are not a medium, if your sensitivity is not so good because you are too mental, too rational, you won't listen to them. And that can be complicated for you. Actually, it's the case for most people. But anyway, And then you can ask me,
Greicy, how can I know my reincarnation program? What I'm here to do? What I came here to do? My main challenges, and if I'm on the right path or not?
it's a very good question. Well, from my experience, years and years, decades of studies and practice as a therapist, and before that, as an astrologer, I can say that there is basically a few ways for you to know your programming for this life. First, you can try with the very serious therapist who uses hypnosis to try to make you remember what you have planned for this life. And I don't know, hypnosis, allowing someone to get into your mind. Well, another thing, if you have the possibility to talk to your spiritual mentor, if you have mediumship, that's a nice way. Or if you have another person, a medium, receiving the messages from your spiritual mentor to clarify some situations in your life. Or, this is very interesting, that I've been working with, your birth chart can reveal your main challenges and your main lessons for this life. But see, it's important to say that your birth chart is unique, and it's like a photograph of the sky when you were born, taken from that place you were born. That's why for raising a birth chart, it is necessary to have the birth date, day, month, and year, your birth time, and your birthplace, because latitude and longitude are very important, and your birth time, the most exactly as possible. So your birth chart is like a photo. It won't change with time. What happens is the planets are still moving, and they will make aspect with specific points in your birth chart. And that's what we call transits. It's a way of doing forecasts. But anyway, your birth chart won't change. You can change. You are expected to change, to evolve, right? So your challenges, the more you learn with your own experiences, or you can also learn with other people's experiences, not having to suffer that much, right? So the more you learn and evolve, the aspects in your birth chart will tend to manifest in a more subtle way. It depends on you how those aspects, they are just tendencies, but how they will manifest in your life in a hard way or in a subtle way will depend on your level of consciousness. So, as I was saying, your birth chart won't change. You will change, hopefully, for the better. And I like to compare astrology to medicine. You study for many years, but the way you will put your knowledge into practice will depend on your inner baggage, how you feel more comfortable with. A doctor can specialize in a specific field in medicine, right? It's the same in astrology. The way the astrologer will take will depend greatly on their inner tendencies in terms of preferences. When I started to study astrology many, many years ago, more than 30 years, oh my God, 37 years ago, it's a lot of time. I felt like I was just remembering. You have the basics, the definitions of the planets, the meanings of the houses. But for me, it was like remembering things that I've already learned in another time. And I was always self-taught. So I learned astrology and many other things on my own. I never had a teacher. Like in many things in my life, I felt like I was led by someone. And in astrology, I fell in love when I discovered psychological astrology, which is a current from London. Very interesting psychological astrology. It's very different. So, but because of my studies in spirituality, I took that specific way and I joined my knowledge about astrology, the basic concepts that everyone who studies astrology will be aware of, like the meaning of the planets, the aspects, the houses in the birth chart, and everything. They are basic concepts we learn. But with my spiritual knowledge, I could have a different view and consequently a different approach. Another thing that helped me a lot to refine my approach was my contact with my spiritual friends on the other side of life in another dimension through astral projection. So I have a very specific way of seeing a birth chart, of reading the symbols there. And all this to say that I can see in a birth chart the main challenges, the main lessons someone is here to learn. Not only that, the main, what I call sabotaging subpersonalities, which is a very interesting concept that I will talk in another video. So this is very natural and very easy and very fast for me to see. I don't have to know anything about the person, really. I just look at their birth chart and a lot of information comes to me because I'm very inspired. For me, it doesn't matter where the inspiration comes from. If it is from a spiritual friend, if it is from my soul or the person's soul or the person's spiritual mentor, it doesn't matter for me. What is really important is if it makes sense to the person. So I look at a birth chart and a lot of information just come to me, to my mind. And many times I don't even have to think, what is that planet making that aspect with that other planet in those houses? No. And many times the things that comes to me goes way beyond the astrological knowledge because I can see things in their life they went through and I just received information and I keep talking and people are in awe, like, oh my God, how can you know all that if you don't know me, if you are not even seeing me? I had a client that once described my reading as jaw-dropping. Well, that's very natural for me, just no big deal for me because I'm used to do that. So in your birth chart, not all, it's important to say, not all astrologer will see and interpret and read your birth chart like this because it will depend on their inner baggage, what other things they have studied before and complemented with their astrological knowledge. So my view is very unique. All the astrology books that I've ever read don't have this approach because they don't consider the spiritual part of life and the possibility of planning a new reincarnation. So that's my view, and that's very helpful. And more than that, I consider the birth chart as a very powerful tool to have when I work as a therapist with someone, because I already know what they are here for, what they need to work on, what needs to be improved in their personality, or what they need to learn, and why they are going through the same repetitive patterns in their life. When in specific situation is always repeating in your life, or the same type of person you attract to your life. Looking at your birth chart, I will know the why, which is a lesson you need to learn, a challenge in order to evolve. This way, having the birth chart, it's like a shortcut. I don't need several weeks or months to get to know my client and have a clue of why they are going through some specific situations. No, the birth chart tells me everything, but just because I can read that way, with that perspective. So if you know what you need to do, what you are here for, you won't waste time and energy pursuing things and goals that are not for you, right? So, in general lines, this is an explanation to start with this channel. This is a brief explanation about what is a reincarnation programming. It's the plan that is made for you for this life. Before you were born, someone set a plan, and somehow you agreed with that. You may not remember, as the vast majority of people don't remember, but somehow you agreed to go through some specific situations to learn specific lessons. But that doesn't mean that every suffering you already had in your life was part of that planning. Why? Well, because we have free will. You may be out of track. You may have been out of track eventually in your life.
Greicy, how can I know if I'm on the right track?
Well, I could know looking at your birth chart. You alone, you have much more work to know if you're on your right track. You alone, depending on your level of consciousness, depending on your level of contact with your spirit, to know what is intended for you. I don't know if you could know that. I don't know if you could have at least a glimpse of if you're on your right track. Not to be sure. I mean, if you are not so mental, not so rational, you can feel in your chest, you're so validating the choices you've made. Because our soul talks to us through sensations in our chest. When you have an idea, a thought, and it feels good, then it's your soul validating that thing. But if you don't feel good, you feel like uncomfortable with that idea, it's how our soul usually talks to us through sensations. But our mind, our rational mind, brainwashed in this world, needs certainty, needs to be sure that we are making the right choices. And even if you're not spiritual, you can have that kind of doubt in life, right?
Am I doing right? Am I making the right choices in this life? Being with that partner, in that job, doing that thing.
This is just an option that I'm presenting to you, a certain way that I know you can have answers for your life, for that kind of doubt. What am I doing here? What am I here to learn? Am I wasting my life with wrong choices or not? Am I learning what I need to? And not only what, but why? Why am I going through all these challenges, all these hard experiences in my life? Why I'm always attracting that kind of partner or possible partner? Why am I always having trouble with that specific experience or situation in my life? Your birth chart can give you answers depending on who is reading. That's it. I think for the first video, it was a very deep matter. But as I heard, the first videos are the worst, so I'll improve. I love to study and learn, and so I hope to improve in video making. That's it for today. Thank you for watching, and